I think there's a huge element of risk attached to this one. I'm surprised by the way it was portrayed as a fait accompli in Spain and in Italy. I think that raises a red flag a little bit in terms of, who is it that's promoting this? Who's pushing this? It seems to be coming more from his side, perhaps even his dad's side. Don Carlo might be getting a couple of favours done. I think it's way too early. You two guys would agree with that, wouldn't you? That it's impossible to make the conclusion that this guy has got the job when the process really hasn't got up and running yet.
Scott and I were both making the calls the other night. Was it Monday night when the story broke? Certainly the people we were speaking at the club were insisting that it's nowhere near even the point where you could say he was the front runner, never mind the next candidate, the next manager. So I said again, I think I was on Hotline Live the other night and we spoke about just how odd that was, that on one end of the story you're getting it portrayed as being a done deal, and then from the other end, the Glasgow end, it's coming in as hold your horses. So somebody's got the wrong end of the stick somewhere.
Yeah.
I would think that there's definite interest. Yeah, definite interest, but as in terms of how far down the road it is, whether somebody's getting carried away with themselves or somebody's not perhaps close at home, isn't telling things the way that they really are, that we don't know. But I think there's still a few more names. I just think, like you, listen, this guy might be the next, he might be the next Carlo Ancelotti, if you want to put it that way, right? He might be the next big thing, but it's a gamble because he doesn't have a track record that Rangers can point to. Yeah, he's worked at some big clubs, but we all pretty much believe that that's because of who his dad is. He certainly played a part. Everyone I've spoken to down in Merseyside, but I knew when he was at Everton, spoke about how hard a worker he was, the work he did, especially around things like set pieces. He was really, inventive and really progressive in how they dealt with those aspects. But until he strikes out his own, nobody's going to really grasp how good this guy is.
Agreed. Scott,
Rangers the place to do that. I'm a bit concerned.
Jacko, the key thing for me is who's driving the search for the manager, because as you say, Ancelotti would be a massive gamble. When you think about, you ask anybody connected to this club, what would be required in the next Rangers manager, and there was boxes to tick. He barely ticks any of the boxes other than being a really highly regarded young coach. So he's got no link to the club. He doesn't know Scottish football. He's never managed a first team before. There are huge questions over him. But I go back to it, who's driving it? Because from the outside, it feels like, with a big name, it feels like a very American takeover candidate to me, and something that they would like. So is it purely them? How much influence has Kevin Thelwell got? Has Patrick Stewart got an influence? Because at least he would be a guy who's Scottish, knows the club obviously a lot better, could maybe flag up some of these concerns. I think, as Andy says, there are other candidates, but I do think they've spoken to Ancelotti and there's definite interest there. And as you say, it's a big assumption to assume he's going to get it, because it would be a huge gamble. Just the managerial appointment's a gamble, but that would be a massive one. For in terms of where Rangers are at the moment as a club,
and how much work is required.
Correct. You're talking about they're 4 in a row behind Celtic. The new manager's got to go up against Brendan Rodgers and potentially Rodgers last season at Celtic. We know the money that Celtic have got in the bank, potentially more Champions League money to come. And it's a monumental task.